The night air was crisp as Emma stepped out of the car and closed the door behind her. The faint hum of crickets replaced the buzz of laughter and music that still echoed in her ears from the party. Under the streetlight, her heels tapped gently against the quiet pavement as she walked up the familiar path toward her front porch. For the first time in what felt like ages, a lightness settled over her shoulders, subtle but unmistakable. The birthday celebration had been more than just another evening out. It had been warm and filled with familiar faces, old friends, and that rare, fleeting sense of belonging that she hadn't felt in months. For a few hours, she hadn't been defined by responsibility. She'd simply been Emma. Inside, a gentle glow spilled from a single lamp in the corner, painting the living room in soft gold. Emma slipped off her coat, placed her small clutch on the side table, and let out a slow exhale, a sigh that seemed to release an entire day's worth of breath. Something about tonight lingered differently in her chest. It wasn't just the navy dress hugging her figure, or the faint warmth from champagne still coloring her cheeks. It was the way people had seen her. At 43, she was accustomed to being looked past, to being folded neatly into titles. Mother, coworker, friend, the dependable constant in everyone's life. But tonight, she'd been more. People had commented on her smile, on how her laughter filled the room, on the spark in her eyes when she spoke. The compliments had been small, harmless, but they clung to her now, glowing faintly somewhere deep in her chest. She felt alive, noticed, visible. And though she wouldn't have said it aloud, she tucked that feeling gently inside her heart like a secret she wanted to keep. As she turned the key and pushed open her front door, the familiar scent of her home wrapped around her, fresh laundry, a trace of coffee, the faint warmth of comfort. Emma smiled without thinking. It was her place, steady and safe. But as she walked deeper into the room, her smile faltered. There on the couch sat Daniel. He wasn't just awake. He was waiting. His posture was too still, his eyes too intense. "Daniel?" Her voice was soft as she slipped off her heels and set them aside. "It's late. What are you doing up?" He didn't answer immediately. His gaze followed her as she crossed the room, something unreadable in his expression. A faint unease bloomed in her chest. She had expected quiet solitude, not her 22-year-old son sitting there as though he'd been guarding something all night. "I was waiting for you," Daniel said at last, his voice steady, low, almost rehearsed. Emma paused mid-step. The tone wasn't casual, not the easy mumbling he used when asking about dinner or her day. This tone had intention. Her hands stilled at her sides. "Is something wrong?" she asked carefully, searching his face. Daniel leaned forward, elbows balanced on his knees, fingers woven tightly together. In that posture, in that moment, he looked older, like someone balancing a truth he had carried too long. "You looked different tonight," he began quietly. His eyes didn't waver. She blinked. "Different?" "Yeah," he said slowly. "I saw you before you left. You were smiling, really smiling. When you walked out the door in that dress, you looked happy. And when you came back just now, I could still see it. It hit me then. You're not just my mom. You're a woman too." The words landed like pebbles dropped into still water, rippling outward, impossible to ignore. Emma froze, every thought blurring for a second. The soft afterglow of the party still pulsed faintly within her, but his statement cut through it, precise and cool. She gave a small, nervous laugh. "You sound so serious. It was just a party, sweetheart." But Daniel didn't laugh. His gaze was anchored firmly to hers, unwavering. "No, Mom. It's not just that. Tonight I realized how badly I've taken you for granted. You're always doing everything, for me, for everyone. You keep all of us going, and I don't think I've ever really told you how much that means." Her breath snagged slightly. These weren't casual remarks, not the polite gratitude of a son. His words came with a gravity that unsettled her. She slowly set her purse down and sat opposite him, her knees almost touching the coffee table. "Daniel," she murmured, "what's brought this on tonight?" He inhaled deeply, chest expanding as though he'd been holding it in too long. "Because I don't want you to forget who you are. I see how you live for everyone else, how you make sure everything runs smoothly, but sometimes I think you forget that you deserve more than just keeping things together. You deserve to feel alive. You deserve to be seen." "Daniel." Her voice trembled slightly. She wasn't sure what to say. For years, she had told herself the quiet ache she occasionally felt was normal. The echo left behind when the house grew silent, when the nights stretched too long. She had learned to silence her own needs in favor of others. But hearing her son speak this way stirred something in her. A deep, intimate recognition that she had both longed for and feared. The room suddenly felt small. The only sound was the soft hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the clock. She looked at him. Not the child she once tucked into bed, but the man he'd become. His earnestness both comforted and disarmed her. "You're making me emotional," she said finally, trying to smile as she brushed a strand of hair from her cheek. "It's been a long day, love. Maybe we can talk about this tomorrow?" But Daniel didn't move back. If anything, he leaned in closer, his eyes deep and intent. "No, Mom. I need you to hear me now." The words landed heavy between them, charged with meaning. Emma's pulse stumbled a little faster. She wanted to fill the space, to deflect, to make it lighter. But all she could do was fold her hands tightly in her lap. Something had shifted, intangible, but real. The fragile glow from the evening had vanished, replaced by a different sort of energy, unsteady yet honest. The air around them crackled with truths neither had spoken before. The house was quiet, but inside her, everything was loud. Her heartbeat, her breath, the rush of thoughts colliding too quickly. The night, she realized, wasn't winding down after all. It was unfurling into something new, something she didn't yet understand. Emma sat frozen in the quiet living room, the faint ticking of the wall clock counting each slow second, as if time itself were holding its breath. Daniel's words echoed in her ears. "You're not just my mom. You're a woman, too." The weight of that truth rested against her ribs, trembling. Daniel didn't look away. His dark eyes stayed locked on hers, full of an emotion she couldn't name. Steady, raw, utterly sincere. He wasn't mocking her, wasn't exaggerating. He meant every syllable. The earnestness in his gaze unnerved her, making her pulse flutter. "Daniel," she said softly, her voice caught between steadiness and disbelief. "You're making this sound bigger than it is. I just went to a party." But he shook his head slowly, with deliberate calm. "No, Mom, it is bigger. Sitting here tonight, I realized I never say what matters. I don't tell you often enough what you mean to me. You're the strongest person I know, always holding everything together. And sometimes, I forget that you need to be seen too." Her fingers twisted together helplessly. His words scraped against something buried deep, something she rarely let herself touch. For so many years, she had devoted herself to the steady rhythm of care, working, cleaning, paying bills, tending to Daniel's needs, ensuring the world never tilted off balance. And in doing so, she had tucked her own feelings neatly away. She smiled faintly, the expression fragile on her tired face. "You're grown now, sweetheart. You don't have to worry about me. I'm fine." Daniel's answer was quiet, but it cut straight through her defenses. "No, you're not. You've learned how to look fine, but I can see it. You've been lonely, haven't you? Her breath hitched. The question neither sounded cruel nor intrusive. It was simply true. Painfully true. She opened her mouth to laugh it off, to wave it away as nonsense. But the sound didn't come. His eyes had seen too much. She looked down, her voice trembling when she finally whispered, "Sometimes, yes, but that's not your burden to carry." Daniel's hands clenched together, his shoulders tense. "But it is my burden, Mom. I can't stand the thought of you giving so much love and not having someone to give it back to you. Tonight made me realize you deserve to feel alive, to feel cherished, to feel like a woman who still has so much to give." Emma's breath caught. His words carried a tenderness she wasn't prepared for. It wasn't a casual observation. It was a confession, raw and unguarded. She raised her eyes to him, searching his face. "Why are you telling me this? Why no?" His answer came quickly without hesitation. "Because if I don't, I'll regret it. I've seen you put yourself second for so long. You always make sacrifices. You always hide your own feelings to keep me safe, to keep this family strong. But who does that for you? Who makes sure you don't feel invisible?" The silence that followed was thick, almost unbearable. Emma's pulse hammered in her ears. She wanted to speak, but no words came. Daniel took a slow breath. "Tonight, when you walked out the door, you looked radiant. It scared me because I realized I almost forgot that you're more than the person who raised me. You're a person with a heart that deserves more than just duty and responsibility. I don't ever want you to forget that." Emma's eyes burned with tears. His words felt like both a gift and a wound. Beautiful, because they reminded her of her worth. Painful because they came from someone she wasn't prepared to hear them from. She reached for the edge of the couch, grounding herself. "Daniel, you're saying things that are too much. You don't understand the weight of what you're telling me." But he didn't back down. "I understand more than you think. I know I'm young and maybe my words sound strange coming from me, but they're the truth. You're not just my mom. You're a woman who deserves love. You deserve someone who sees you the way I do." The room seemed to shrink around her. His honesty pressed against her like a tide, and she felt herself drowning in the intensity of it. She wanted to stop him, but another part of her wanted to hear more, wanted to believe that someone could see her in this way, even if it was her son. Her voice came out in a whisper. "You don't know how dangerous your words are. They make me feel things I don't want to feel." Daniel looked down, its expression filled with regret, but his voice was still steady. "I didn't mean to scare you. I can't keep quiet anymore. You're the most important person in my life, and I can't watch you carry everything alone. I can't watch you pretend you don't need more." Emma pressed a hand to her chest, feeling her heart pound beneath her palm. His words had shaken the walls she had built around herself, walls she thought would keep her safe. But now those walls were cracking, and the emotions behind them were flooding out. She tried to compose herself. "Daniel, I've spent years teaching you how to be strong, how to grow, how to become your own man. I never imagined you'd turn those lessons back on me like this." His lips curved into the faintest smile, though his eyes stayed serious. "Maybe that's what you wanted deep down, for me to see you, to remind you of the things you try so hard to hide." Emma shook her head, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I don't know what to say. You've left me speechless." Daniel leaned back, his voice softer now. "Then don't say anything. Just let my words stay with you, even if you never repeat them. I need you to know how much you matter. Not just as my mom, as you." Emma stared at him, her emotions a storm she couldn't calm. His confession had opened something she had long buried. The truth that she was more than the roles she played, more than the responsibilities she carried. She was still alive, still longing, still human. But that truth was terrifying too, because it came from Daniel, the one person she never thought would say such things. She took a trembling breath, whispering, "Daniel, your words have touched me more than you'll ever know. But they've also left me afraid." The clock ticked again, louder this time, as though marking the change in the air. Emma knew that nothing would ever be quite the same, again. Emma sat on the edge of the couch, her body tense, her hands twisted together as though holding herself in place. Daniel's words had left her shaken, but his eyes, so steady, so full of meaning, kept her from looking away. The silence in the room was heavy, pressing down on both of them. Filled with emotions she couldn't name, she drew in a slow breath. "Daniel, you've grown. I see that you're not a boy anymore. But you must understand these words you're speaking. They cut deeper than you realize." Daniel leaned closer, Heiselbows resting on his knees, his voice low and deliberate. "I know exactly what I'm saying. I've thought about it for a long time. You give so much and no one gives back to you. It isn't fair. You deserve happiness too." Emma felt her throat tighten. His words weren't wrong. She had given and given year after year until parts of her felt hollow. But hearing him say it out loud was different. It was raw. It was honest. And it touched a part of her she had hidden away for too long. Her voice trembled. "You can't carry my loneliness for me. Daniel, that's not your place." His gaze softened, but he didn't back down. "I'm not trying to carry it. I'm trying to tell you that I see it. That I see you. You're more than just a caretaker. You're more than just my mom. You're a woman who deserves to be loved." Emma's chest ached. For so long, she had trained herself to be strong, to bury her own desires beneath her responsibilities. But now, his words pulled everything to the surface, and it scared her. Scared her because she wanted to hear them, wanted to believe them, even though she knew she shouldn't. She shook her head, her eyes filling with tears. "Do you realize what you're doing to me right now? You're breaking down walls I've built for years. You're saying things I can't ignore, even if I want to." Danielle lowered his eyes, guilt flickering across his face. "I don't want to hurt you, Mom. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I can't stand watching you hide behind strength. You deserve more." Emma moved to sit beside him. The closeness made her heart race, but she couldn't stop herself. She reached for his hand, hesitated, then let her fingers brush against his. The warmth was immediate, unsettling, but grounding at the same time. "Daniel," she whispered, "you don't know what you're asking of me. I don't even know what I feel right now. I only know that your words are pulling me apart." He looked at their hands, then back at her. "I'm not asking you for anything. I just needed you to know. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. You've lived too long pretending you don't need to be seen, and I can't let that continue." Emma's tears slipped down her cheeks, hot and relentless. "Do you know what it feels like to hear this? To hear my own son tell me the things I've longed to hear all my life?" Daniel's eyes darkened with emotion. "Then maybe that's what you needed all along. Someone to remind you that you're still alive, still beautiful, still worthy of love." Emma let out a shaky laugh through her tears. "You don't realize how dangerous those words are. They make me want to believe things I shouldn't. They make me feel things I thought were long gone." Daniel leaned back slightly, but this gaze never left her. "Then let yourself feel them for once. Don't hide, don't pretend. Just let yourself be." Thessalence between them grew thicker, filled with a storm of unspoken truths. Emma felt her heart beating wildly, her breath uneven, her mind racing. She knew this moment was changing everything. She knew she should end it, should walk away. But she couldn't. She squeezed his hand lightly, then let go. The loss of warmth felt immediate, almost painful. She pulled back, trying to regain control of herself. "Daniel, I can't do this. I can't let myself go where your words want to take me. You're my son. That fact will never change." He nodded slowly, though his eyes betrayed the storm within him. "I know, and I don't want to cross lines we can't return from, but I also don't want you to spend the rest of your life hiding from what you deserve. If my words are the only way to remind you of that, then I'll accept it." Emma covered her face with her hands, overwhelmed. His honesty was both a comfort and a curse. She had never expected her own son to be the one to remind her of her worth, to speak the words she had longed to hear, but never thought she would. After a long silence, she lowered her hands and looked at him again. "You've made me realize something, Daniel. Maybe I have been hiding. Maybe I've convinced myself that being strong was enough. But tonight, you've reminded me that I'm still human, that I still need love, even if I don't know where to find it." Daniel's lips curved into a faint, sad smile. "That's all I wanted, Mom. For you to remember that. For you to stop burying your heart." Emma exhaled, trembling. She wanted to hug him, to hold him the way she had when he was small. But she knew this moment wasn't the same. This was different. This was heavier. This was a storm neither of them had asked for. But both of them were standing in the middle of it now. She stood slowly, her legs unsteady. "I need space. I need to think, your words. They've shaken me in ways I can't explain." Daniel nodded, his jaw tight. "I understand." Emma walked a few steps away, her back to him. The weight of the evening pressed down on her shoulders, but inside something had shifted. She felt both broken and alive, afraid and hopeful. For years, she had silenced the quiet ache in her heart, convincing herself that life was fine as it was. But now, with Daniel's words echoing inside her, she couldn't ignore it anymore. The storm was real. It was inside her, changing her, and there was no way to go back to who she had been before. Tonight, Emma rose from the couch slowly, her legs weak, her breath uneven. The air in the living room felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if the walls themselves had absorbed the storm of emotions that had just passed between her and Daniel. She walked a few steps toward the hallway, but then stopped. Her back still turned to him. She couldn't move further, not yet. Her heart was beating too fast, and her mind was racing with words she didn't want to admit had pierced her so deeply. Behind her, Daniel sat in silence. He didn't pressure, didn't call out, but she could feel the weight of his gaze on her back. That gaze carried everything he had, said every confession, every truth, and Emma knew nothing between them would ever be the same again. She turned slightly, her voice low but trembling. "Daniel, you've changed me tonight. I don't know if you meant to, but you did. I don't feel like the same person who left for that party a few hours ago." Daniel's face was unreadable. His hands clasped tightly together as though he were trying to hold back emotions, threatening to break free. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted you to know how much you matter." Emma shook her head softly. "You didn't hurt me. You scared me. And maybe that's worse because now I can't unhear your words. They'll stay with me." The quiet stretched between them, and Emma felt the need to escape before the silences swallowed her whole. She forced herself to move toward the hallway again, this time making it to the door of her bedroom. Her hand rested on the knob, but her heart wouldn't let her turn it. Instead, she leaned against the door frame, her shoulders sagging under the weight of everything she carried inside. She whispered almost to herself, "I've spent years telling myself I was fine, that being a mother, being strong, being dependable was enough. But tonight, you reminded me I'm still human. And that truth is the most terrifying thing of all." Daniel stood slowly, his chair scraping softly against the floor. He didn't walk closer, but his voice carried across the distance, low and steady. "You don't have to be terrified. You just have to let yourself feel again. That's all I wanted for you." Emma closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks. His voice had a way of piercing through every defense she had built. She'd thought she was untouchable, that she could bury her own needs so deeply they would never surface again. But he'd found them. He had pulled them out into the light. She turned her head just enough to see him from the corner of her eye. "Do you know what you've done, Daniel? You've given me back a part of myself I thought I had lost forever. But it frightens me because I don't know what to do with it now." He lowered his gaze, its expression filled with something close to sorrow. "Then don't do anything yet. Just keep it. Let it stay with you. Maybe someday you'll know what to do with it. For now, just remember that you're not invisible. Not to me, not ever." Emma's chest ached at his words. She wanted to step forward to hug him, to thank him for seeing her so clearly. But she didn't trust herself. She was afraid of crossing a line she couldn't return from. Afraid of letting emotions take her somewhere she didn't intend to go. She tightened her grip on the door frame. "I need time, Daniel. It needs space to understand what I'm feeling tonight. You've shaken the foundation of who I thought I was. That's not something I can process in one night." Daniel nodded, his expression serious, almost solemn. "I understand. I won't push you. I just needed you to know the truth." Emma opened the door and stepped inside her room, closing it gently behind her. She leaned against the door, her hands pressed flat against the wood, her body trembling. The house was silent again, but inside her mind, the storm was louder than ever. She slid down to the floor, her back against the door, and pulled her knees to her chest. Her tears came freely now, not out of sadness, but out of the overwhelming mixture of emotions swirling inside her: fear, longing, gratitude, confusion. She'd spent years keeping herself together, convincing herself she was whole, when in truth, she had been quietly breaking. Tonight, Daniel's words had shattered the illusion, and for the first time in a long time, she felt raw and exposed. But she also felt alive. The birthday party had given Hera a glimpse of something she had nearly forgotten: the joy of being seen, the thrill of being admired, the comfort of laughter. Yet none of that compared to the words her son had spoken. His confession had been unexpected, unsettling, but it had touched a place in her heart that no one else had reached in years. She sat there for a long time, the quiet wrapping around her like a blanket. Slowly, she wiped her tears, straightened her shoulders, and whispered to herself, "I am more than I thought I was. I'm still here. I'm still me." On the other side of the door, Daniel hadn't moved. He sat back down on the couch, his head resting in his hands, his mind racing with everything he had revealed. He knew he had crossed a line, but he also knew he had spoken the truth, and sometimes the truth was the only thing worth saying. Emma finally rose from the floor and walked to the window. The night sky stretched endlessly, the stars glowing softly, distant but alive. She pressed her hand against the glass and breathed deeply. Her life was no longer the same. Something inside her had been stirred. Something she couldn't put back to sleep. Her son's words had shaken her. Yes, but they had also awakened her. Undas. She stood there, gazing out into the quiet night. Emma understood that this was not an ending. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where she could no longer hide from herself, one where she would have to face the truth of her heart. She didn't know where it would lead. She didn't know how she would carry it. But she knew this. She could no longer pretend to be invisible. She could no longer silence the longing that had always been there. Emma closed her eyes and whispered into the stillness, "I deserve to be seen." And for the first time in years, she truly believed it.